Today's presentation is by Samira B. Cook Gaines. She's chief of, well, let me just read her bio a little bit of it, because she's a real powerhouse, and we're delighted to have her here today. She's a founding partner of Global Empowerment Solutions, GES, a firm dedicated to helping create sustainable wealth through entrepreneurship and economic development in cities and countries across the world. Now, they work with governments and organizations to develop entrepreneurship ecosystems through innovative programs, supportive policy, and committed partnerships. As I said a whole lot of stuff just now. She's going to break it down and tell us what all of that means. But the biggest part of this, when we talk about the tapestry of black business, we really do need to understand the makeup and the environment that we're in, because at the end of the day, that's our best opportunity for wealth creation. And because of so many resources that are out there on the landscapes and in this room, it's very fitting that she be able to come today and kind of let us know on the national landscape what things are. And I'd also be very interested in hearing any predictions as we look forward in terms of funding for programs and things and stuff that are out there. Everything seems to be in jeopardy right now. So it's nice to have a national voice that kind of has tentacles all over the place to help us to understand what we are looking at. She didn't think it robbery when asked to come to South Carolina to deliver today's speech. Let's give a round of applause to Samira Cook Gaines, the founding partner for Global Empowerment Solutions. Ms. Gaines.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. How are you? I am here on behalf of AEO, the Association for Enterprise Opportunity. We are the voice for micro businesses, and as we all know, micro businesses we see as 5 folks or less in your business. So AEO commissioned a very interesting study, and that is our tapestry of black business ownership. And what I really love most about this study is its objectives. It didn't just survey businesses. The purpose of this report is really to find where the resilience, where the motivation, and the untapped potential of Black American businesses are. So we looked at things like the diverse characteristics and then the barriers to their economic power. So this is not another report about how there's a huge dearth in need for Black-owned businesses versus white-owned businesses. This report was couched around the potential and the promise and what can happen if we can meet those goals. So how many folks in the room are specifically practitioners, as in you work for any agency or business development organization? Any practitioners? Are we mostly practitioners? Okay, and how many entrepreneurs are in the room? Okay, great. So this is the team that's going to make this potential happen. So I'm going to get into a lot of data points, a lot of methodology. I truly believe that data drives the movement. These numbers and these data analytics, they get heavy, but the more the numbers you have, the better the story you can tell. So the way that we put this report together was specifically through literature review, so reviewing existing reports. We also did an expert roundtable, which really worked out well because we included banks, nonprofits, government officials to really help frame the issue and help frame the hypothesis of the report. And then we really did a deep dive into data analytics. We looked at millions of records for 7A loan data, the American Community Survey. We also did a longitudinal data, so that's data over time. So it's not just one slice, we surveyed a bunch of people and made a decision, but we looked over time, a longitudinal study of 5 years, which gives the data a lot more credibility. And then lastly, we surveyed folks. So that's kind of the traditional survey. And we surveyed 300 business owners. 200 were Black business owners and 100 of them were white business owners, specifically with respect to credit. So you all have the reports on your tables, right? And they're gorgeous, aren't they? They're really beautiful. So not just the data, but the look of the report. And those reports really have a quick content overview that talks about things like self-employment as a viable pathway to wealth creation, and one of the best ways for wealth creation for Black Americans. It's thought that home ownership is one of the #1 ways to create wealth in America. But when you're talking about Black business owners, when you're talking about Black Americans, it's the business creation that really has a stronger impact. Next, we talk about the gaps. So the 3 barriers really are the wealth gap, the credit gap, and the trust gap. Now, this trust gap is something that I think we can go deeper into. It's something as practitioners that we already know. It's something as entrepreneurs that we already know. It's not very well documented or even spoken about. We may talk about it in one-to-one interactions, but in truth, no one really says there's a gap in trust that's bigger than your gap in credit. So we do touch on that point here. And then the diversity of Black business owners, and that is native-born versus immigrant-born Black business owners. And we talk a little bit more about kind of the one size does not fit all. Black business owners have 12 times the median net worth of non-Black business owners. 12 times the wealth than non-Black business owners. So when you start to really think about how you're changing your community, how economic development really works, it really is entrepreneurship. It really is an asset that is grown. And you can see here that being a business owner in general helps narrow that wealth gap. Now, non-business owners, whites have about 18 times the median wealth of Blacks. So when you take business out of the equation and just compare, white people have 18 times the median wealth of Black people. That's just straight across the board. And among the adults in general, so just all of America, there's a 13 times multiplier. But when you go back to whites, wealth of Blacks, and business owner, the gap is much smaller. It's really just 3 times. So you go from 18 times the median wealth of the gap to 3. Now, it's still a gap, which is still a problem. But you can see that business, entrepreneurship, and business ownership is the thing that fills the gap.